Happy New Year, all you friends, true believers, and newcomers alike. Hope you had a wonderful holiday season with friends, family, loved ones. I'm your host, Superfly Comics Guy, welcoming you to our first video of 2023 as we take a look at the Injustice Omnibus Volume 1. It may have been a while, but I haven't forgotten the routine because we'll be taking a look at the cover, the spine, the contents collected, the build quality, and a flip through where I can share some of my thoughts, opinions, and recommendations. But if you like the video at any point, you know how to show it. And if you'd like to share your own thoughts, please feel free to leave a comment right down there. But for now, it's time to take a look at this video game tie-in series. How can that be any good? Well, that is what we are here to find out. Okay, so starting off with the dust jacket to the Injustice Omnibus Volume 1, we got this very gorgeous image here by Bruno Redondo. No variant covers or anything like that for this omnibus. But the texture of this dust jacket actually has a matte finish to it, unlike your typical glossy finish that you might find on an omnibus dust jacket. Before we go further, I will point out you might notice some damage on my particular book, some tears in the dust jacket, some corner dings, some bumps. Don't panic, the other copies should not be like this. You can thank Amazon for this. This was one of the earliest omnibus purchases I made back when I was getting them somewhat regularly from Amazon. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back. They packed volumes 1 and 2 into the tiniest possible box they could fit in, and they arrived pretty beat up. So from that point on, I decided not to get my books from Amazon if I can help it. Outside of that, though, in terms of book design, this set of omnibuses, Injustice Volumes 1 and 2, have some of the most outstanding design I've seen from DC, and just an omnibus in general, especially when you pair it with Volume 2. These two look very nice on the shelf when you're looking at the spines. And here is the back. A god gone mad, and the heroes who seek to set it right. Damn straight. We got a cover price of $125 US, $163 Canadian, and this Omnibus Volume 1 collects Injustice Gods Among Us, Year 1, Year 2, and Year 3. Let's have a look under the dust jacket. There we are, very nice. So as you can see, same image from the front of the dust cover, just kind of expanded to focus on Superman and Batman here in this all gold shade, which really stands out. Very nice wraparound cover here. But let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this omnibus and talk about the inside. Okay, so let's crack open this omnibus. First thing you'll see, we got some pretty creative bookend pages here featuring some of the characters from Superman's team. And actually, if you flip to the back, you'll see we get a very similar bookend page here featuring some of the characters from Batman's team. Really well done. Like I said, the overall design of the book itself for these Omnis, really outstanding. I'll explain a little bit what I mean about these different teams later. But otherwise, let's just keep going here. We got an introduction by Tom Taylor, who is the primary writer on this series. And then we dive straight into Injustice Year 1. So we open up here with Batman. In media res, we see this dystopia, this ominous preview of what's to come. And then we flash back 5 years, and the story begins. So, if you're not familiar with Injustice, the Injustice universe is an alternate universe based on the 2013 video game of the same name, Injustice Gods Among Us. And that game asked, what would happen if Superman were to turn evil? In that game, something tragic happens to Superman. He gets pushed over the edge and he crosses a line that Batman is not okay with. And this divides the Justice League. But from that point on, the game actually flashes forward 5 years to where it is Batman's insurgency versus evil Superman's regime. Kind of like DC's Civil War in that sense. But, since we had that time jump, this comic series is a prequel series that covers those 5 years leading up to the events of the video game. And this particular omnibus volume covers years 1, 2, and 3, as you saw, where each year is divided into 12 chapters. And as I said, it's mostly written by Tom Taylor up until year 3, chapter 8, where Brian Buccellato takes over. So, this series is all about a progressive escalation. How do we go from classic Superman to the Superman that we have in the Injustice video game? Because, you know, at the beginning of this story, Batman and Superman are still best buds. They're the world's finest. It's really touching to see their friendship, but you have this lump in your throat the whole time because you know it's not going to last. Something is going to go wrong. And it does. That tragic event happens, but Superman doesn't just immediately snap and go evil. It's all about escalation, as I said. So first example, first of all, he decides to... He says he's not going to wait for crime to happen anymore. He's going to actively prevent it. So, for instance, he's not going to stand by and allow war to continue and innocent lives to be endangered. So he demands that all countries cease any ongoing war, or else he will stop them himself. So he becomes more of an enforcer rather than just a simple protector. So year 1 here focuses on that incident and the growing rift between Superman and Batman, explaining how they eventually end up firmly on opposite sides, and then which side the other heroes fall on as well, whether they agree more with Superman or Batman. In year 2, the Green Lantern Corps gets wind of the situation, and then they become more involved, which leads to an even bigger conflict with several casualties and shifting allegiances. You know, you can tell not all the heroes are really sure of themselves. Even the ones on Superman's side, they're just really intimidated by his power level, which is pretty scary when you think about it. And by year 3, we're starting to get some of the magic users involved. Characters like Constantine, Zatanna, Dr. Fate, the Spectre, Trigon, and Hell. So as you can imagine, this series serves as a great crash course on a large chunk of the DC universe, just because this event affects pretty much everyone. Tom Taylor had an entire universe of characters to balance, which makes it even crazier that this story works so well. I blasted through this omnibus. But this is by no means a perfect book. I do have some complaints about Injustice. For example, the biggest, I guess, problem that with Injustice, I think, is that in order for the plot in here to happen, you kind of just have to accept that some of the characters in here are not going to be written quite the way you expect them to be. For example, Wonder Woman, in my opinion, I don't think she's written particularly well. Damian Wayne, oh god. Injustice Damian is the worst. My first exposure to Damian Wayne was actually the Injustice video game. So yeah, that's why I had such a bad first impression of Damian. Just because of, he's just such an insufferable brat in this universe. But yeah, some characters are just not quite written the way you would expect them to be. Wonder Woman, Damian, Superman, even Batman, I think, is not quite at his smartest. I would have liked to see more detective work from Batman. But yeah, Tom Taylor actually alludes to this in his foreword. He says, you know, he loves Superman. Superman was his hero. He dreams of the day that he'll get to write an inspiring, a hopeful Superman the way he wants him to be. But then he says, this is not that story. So Tom Taylor is aware of this. Now there are moments of a hopeful Superman, because there are some moments in here like flashbacks to times when Superman helped a kid fix his bike, and then the kid is reflecting on, oh man, Superman has changed so much. What happened to him? But anyway, there are some other complaints I have. We got to talk about the art in this omnibus, because it is up and down. Sometimes it's great. Other times it can be pretty bad, and sometimes it can shift around even during an issue, during a chapter. And the bad art can sometimes even straight up break your immersion during moments that are supposed to be really impactful. I won't spoil any here, but it definitely happened to me a few times. The other issue, well, this isn't really an issue, but when you have an alternate universe, that means characters here are expendable. But I did feel that some character deaths in here were purely done for shock value. Not all of them. Most of them are done pretty well, but there are some character deaths in here where, characters that could have and should have had a way bigger impact on the story were just wasted. Their potential was wasted. But aside from that, just some mild complaints. Because it's tied into the video game, there are some goofy things that it inherits. For example, if you're wondering how some of these heroes can go toe-to-toe, characters can go toe-to-toe with each other, like, how the heck can Harley Quinn go up against, for example, Green Lantern? That's explained away. They have these super pills that the less powerful characters take, and that kind of brings them up to the level of these more powerful characters. And then other minor things, like I'm not really a fan of Batman's costume design in Injustice, especially his cowl. I just feel like it's busy and over-designed. Now, this omnibus comes with a pretty chunky extras section here. First of all, we have this afterword by Ed Boon, the director from the studio that made the Injustice 1 video game. And then we have a small little variant cover gallery featuring a few different covers. There's the one they used for the cover of the video game. There's some pretty cool ones in here. Batman and Flash, Joker and Green Lantern, Batman and Superman, of course. Very nice covers, but you also get, for example, Tom Taylor's original proposal for Injustice, all the different arcs, and then you also get loads and loads of layouts and original scripts, sketches, your typical extra stuff, but there's a lot of it. Sometimes I feel that DC Omnis have less extras than Marvel Omnis, but it's nice to see that this one is quite chunky and packed with content. So definitely lots to be enjoyed, lots to learn about in this extra section. Now, as for build quality, this is another very strong point of this omnibus. 1,104 pages, a nice big eye, which is always great to see. You will still get mild gutter loss every now and then, especially towards the beginning and end of this book, just because of its size and the thick pages here. But otherwise, pretty good. There's no table of contents or page numbers, which normally I would complain about, but because of the way this book is structured, it being an ongoing story and it being divided into chapters, I really didn't have a problem with it. Like I said, I read this really, really quickly. I blasted through this omnibus, so I didn't really mind that it didn't have page numbers or a table of contents. But just to wrap up some thoughts here on this book, I would say even if you haven't played the Injustice video game, doesn't matter. I would totally recommend this book. The writing here is excellent. I mean, at the core of this story, it's about this iconic friendship, Batman and Superman, that just slowly falls apart. The writing is mature, it's gripping, it's emotional, and it's a video game tie-in comic. It is way better than it has any right to be. But as I mentioned, it's not perfect. You will need to look past things such as certain characters not behaving exactly the way their classic counterparts might, and the art can often be quite a letdown, especially in this volume. But the nice thing is you don't really need to read anything prior to this to enjoy it, although I will say it'll probably help if you have at least a basic understanding of some of the Justice League characters, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, Green Lantern, Flash, your heavy hitters. But otherwise, the writing will do a great job of explaining the other characters to you. Like I said, this can be a great crash course for you on the wider DC universe. And certainly way, way better than that Injustice animated movie. Dear Lord, that did not do a good job of capturing the events of this series. But anyways, guys, that has been my review of the Injustice Omnibus Volume 1. I aim to bring you Volume 2 really soon, but for now, let me know what you thought about this book or the Injustice series as a whole. Have you played the video game? Feel free to shout out your thoughts down below. But for now, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to catch you in another video real soon. Have yourself a great day. I've been Superfly Comics Guy, and until next time, keep reading. Bye, guys.